Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, but today we have a very special guest host. Her name is Shireen Richter, all the way from South Africa. Shireen is a laughter professor in South Africa, and she is putting together a book called Expert Mavericks, and she's interviewing some high-profile people from South Africa who have a lot to share in regards to what it is to be successful and what you need to do to have success and happiness in your life. So really looking forward to hearing those South African accents and hearing from all these guest experts that she is going to interview. So take it away, Shireen.
Hi, I'm Shireen Richter, Laughter and Happiness Professor, and today we are interviewing Tandy Coleman, CEO of Polyflor, as one of the mavericks for our book, Expert Mavericks. Tandy is the CEO of Polyflor, which is one of the leading vinyl flooring supply companies in South Africa. She's a third-generation Coleman to take the reins of this family business and is continuing this legacy with a passion for business, family, and solid values. As part of her passion and dedication to the industry, Tandy is also on the board of the Flooring Industry Training Association and the South African Vinyl Association. She's a beautiful single mother of 2 daughters and has spent her life being driven to be a good example and a role model to all that she knows and all that know her. Welcome, Tandy.
Thank you, Shireen. Thank you for having me.
Tandy, you really are a maverick in so many ways. Can you tell us what you think the word expert maverick means and how you see it relating to you?
Well, a maverick is someone who does stuff differently and pushes the boundaries. I'm not entirely sure I would be convinced that I'm a maverick. I think I've often towed the line more than I've challenged the boundaries. But I do think I change things up. I try to come in and do something a bit differently. So I guess that's what makes me a maverick. I think an expert maverick does it with a bit of finesse and probably a good strategy.
I think an expert maverick does it with passion and does it well. And everything you do well, from being a mom to running this huge business to living a life that's filled with passion and really good values. And there's a lot to be learned from your story and the way you've been maverick about it. What has molded you into a maverick? Has there been a person that has been your role model in life? Has there been somebody that helped you develop yourself into throwing things around and doing things differently?
I think there have been several role models in my life. I mean, I certainly think my parents have been extreme role models for me. You know, the family business has been a solid business filled with family values. I mean, our staff are extended family. We talk about the Polyflor family, and I think that has been very much part of who I've become over the years. You know, and my dad is one of the most determined people I know. You know, he really, when he started this, and there's a long history, and perhaps I should tell you that now.
Yes, take us back.
My grandfather started Polyflor in South Africa in the late 1950s. When my dad completed school, he then did an internship in the UK at the Polyflor factory and some of a plastics degree, and then he came back and he got involved in the business. And then in the late 1960s, one of the vinyl suppliers in South Africa bought out everybody. They bought out all the competition. And amazingly, they put a 20-year restraint of trade on the name. So Polyflor died in South Africa at that point. But the Halstead family ran Polyflor in the UK, and the Coleman family and the Halstead family remained in touch. So when that restraint of trade ran out, they approached my dad and they said, start again. So the company that existed in South Africa at the time had a 20-year monopoly, and they just pretty much laughed at the thought that anybody could come into the business or into the industry. And so we started, and it was my dad and my mom and myself around the dining room table in our home, and we kind of and my dad's determination to get into the the sales, and my mom's absolute support of everything, and my ability to set up the accounting system with my accounting background and all the running of the business and that, and we grew, and now we're the biggest, or one of the suppliers in South Africa. We certainly have put the company back in its rightful place.
It's an amazing story because it's very hard to have a family business. There are many challenges, and many families don't succeed. There's a lot of fighting that goes on, a lot of ego, a lot of power play, and often family businesses remain mom and pop. You have taken this to a completely new level. Was it difficult? What were some of your challenges and struggles? And especially being a woman in this kind of industry, have you found it difficult?
I don't think that being a woman in the flooring industry is terribly difficult. I think that if you earn the respect of the industry, it's fine. I do think that what has been difficult is to earn respect for myself as opposed to just being Denver's daughter. So establishing who Tandy is. Correct. And I think the realization that I actually really do know what I'm talking about, and that I really am as passionate about the business is certainly something that I've had to earn. And it's been a long journey. You know, I started off initially, as I say, in the business with them, and after a period of time I left. And I left for several reasons. One was that at the point in time and the marriage that I was in in a very uncomfortable place. I had very little confidence in myself, and I was continually told that I was only paid because I worked for my parents and I wasn't really of any value. And I think that played hugely on me. And then being in the business at times was quite difficult for me. As you say, you know, you're kind of living in that shadow and you're not really sure. So I decided to take a completely different road, and I've always been fascinated there's always been a part of me that wants to be in healing, and maybe medicine would have been a choice at some point if I decided to go down that road. But I decided to take reflexology, and I went and I left Polyflor and I studied reflexology for 2 years, and it was the most amazing time in my life. I suddenly walked into this class of people who I didn't know, and they were interested in my opinions, and I learned that I was quite intelligent and that I knew what I was talking about, and I did well and I achieved things, and I grew so much, and that for me was a huge step in that direction. And I had all these wonderful plans for a women's health center, and I really was on a completely different path. And then part of this growth led to a divorce, and that put me back a few steps, because suddenly I needed to earn a living to support myself and my children, and so I had to shelve the reflexology and go back into the corporate world. So my initial start was a bookkeeping service that I started, and I was working quite a lot of nights and weekends when the girls were sleeping or maybe with their dad, and I had a bunch of clients, and I ran that very successfully for about 3 years. And then I kind of got the calling to go back to the family business. But I did sort of do so in some ways on my own terms. I said, I'm not coming back to do the books, and I need to do something with this. I want to be part of the growth of this business, not just you know, Tandy coming in to take over from Denver one day. And so I got back into the business, and my dad and Peter Duplessis, who's part of the business, I mean, have been incredible mentors to me on all the business stuff and the technical stuff, and, you know, learning a lot of that. And then I've had a very close relationship with my brother-in-law, Ryan Falkenberg, and he's been an incredible mentor to me on business strategy and on how to take the business to a different level. And coming in with that outside view, just looking at it so differently, I realized that it was a family business that now needed a complete restructure.
And that was probably where the whole change started coming in when you came back.
Yes. So that's when we started to relook at it, and we completely restructured how we ran the business, and we completely restructured how we positioned the business in the market. So we recreated the brand. We had to find the differentiator, which was there. It just wasn't being used properly, and so we totally rebranded, and we put a lot of effort into our expertise, our technical knowledge, our service, our site support, all of that. So it's so much more than just the product. I mean, we're an end-to-end solution business. And when we started focusing a lot on that and getting everybody to put the effort into that, it was amazing, the change.
And do you think that your time being apart from it gave you more of a global view of the company and oversight, that you could see these were the things that needed shifting? Often when we're in a situation, we can't see further than what's straight in front of us.
See the wood for the trees.
Correct. So what, being away, did that give you, greater context to come in and change?
Absolutely. Because I was away, and, And while I was away, which was a period in total of about 5 years, I think that the business had grown and changed to a degree on its own or under the guidance of others. And coming back in, initially, to be absolutely honest, when I arrived there, I think for the first 6 months, nobody knew what to do with me, because now I was refusing to go into the accounts department, and there were other people in most of the positions, and they kind of all were like, okay, so Tandy's back, yay, rah, rah. Now what do we do with her? And I'm the boss's daughter.
So that's been after you, but what's Tandy doing?
So, I literally fell into this marketing position more by default than anything else. And I found I absolutely loved it.
And it's amazing.
I just started to see ideas and plans and a way of just driving this to a different place. And I looked around and I said to the sales team, but you are the best sales team in the country. You offer clients more than anybody else does, but you're not selling yourselves. And that was the start. And then the ball just rolls.
And you say it with such passion, so one can actually feel your passion and energy coming through, whereas when you spoke about the accounts, you didn't have much passion.
I'm very good at accounts. I can always fall back on it, but it's not my passion.
It's nice to always have something to fall back on. It's important, especially as a woman. I want to just go back into something you spoke about. For a while you said you had no self-confidence, and within your marriage, you were made to feel as if you were just getting paid because you were the daughter. That happens to so many women. We kind of have what's called the imposter syndrome. Am I really good at what I do? Am I worthy? Am I someone that's valuable and deserving of this money? And what shifted for you? What do you think it was that made you find your worth? Because there's just so many people out there that are in similar situations that feel like, is someone going to catch me out, almost? But in actual fact, we're fabulous at what we do.
Absolutely.
But because as a woman, many of us have so many roles. We're mothers, we're wives, we run homes, we run businesses. We almost feel like, am I really good enough? Can I really do this? When's the truth going to come out that I can't? And it's just all in our head, right?
Correct. So, no, absolutely. I think one of my big passions is that women are so undervalued, but we undervalue ourselves.
Yes.
And it's, you look around the world, gone are the days when moms stayed at home, but even the mom that does stay at home does an amazing job. She gives up her entire life to raise her children and look after a home.
And I must be honest, that's more difficult than being in a corporate environment.
Absolutely.
It's more taxing on you.
I've done it all.
Yes.
I've stayed at home. I've done the half day. I've done the full day. And it's every one of them has their pros and cons. And I think that women so often, as I say, undervalue themselves, and there's so much that we do, and we take on all the responsibility. I'll never forget when I was still married, and I was working also all day, coming home, cooking supper, whatever. I'd have something in the evening, and my husband would phone me up and go, I've got a meeting tonight. Sorry. Never once saying, gee, I phoned my mom and arranged a babysitter because I know you going up. It's just like, everything becomes your issue. So I think there are some amazing husbands and men out there who really are equal roles in a partnership, but I think there are very few. Men have this ability to go, I'm so important, I'm doing this is what I'm doing, sorry about that kind of thing. And I think that women, we just manage it all. We juggle a million balls, and you get home and the project has to be done, and there's no cardboard, and you're off to the shop and then you're back again. And, and this is how it goes. And
you're doing homework at 11 o'clock at night.
Correct. So you're making school lunch at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then you're trying to get to the gym, because if you don't look good, then that's also a problem. And, and we are so hard on ourselves.
Yes.
And I think that for me has been a huge lesson. And, you talk about the confidence, or that ability to know. There's still days where I wonder when someone's going to walk into my office and say, really, how do you know that you know what you're doing? Because I'm not sure I do always know what I'm doing. But, I think that's something that grows, and it's definitely so the beginning of the journey was definitely to move myself into a space where I could, my worth could be valued by people who didn't know me. So the reflexology class was definitely that. Nobody knew me. Nobody had any idea who I was. I was nobody's daughter, sister, mother, whatever. It was just these people. And that was the first for me, was this building up of my confidence and understanding that actually I was okay, that, that I was quite smart and people did like me, and I made friends, because that was something else I was often told, your friends aren't really your friends. If you leave this marriage, you will have no friends. And I was like, terrified I'd lose my friends. And so I realized a lot. And then I put myself into therapy, and I worked very closely with a psychologist for a couple of years to really build myself up. And then when I realized, after certain incidents, and I don't really want to go into details about the marriage for the respect for the girls, and I will give my ex-husband his due. I think he's tried to make up for it, and he's been a good dad, and we're actually relatively good friends these days. We work well together for the sake of our children, because that's very important for us. And but yeah, after a certain incident, I kind of just looked at my world, and I thought, what are you doing? You are raising two little girls who were very little at the time, and you are telling them this is okay. This is so not okay, because if this was happening to them, you would be devastated. And that was the beginning of the repair. I got out of that marriage, and that was tough.
And that must have taken a lot of courage with two young children.
Huge.
To make that decision and to go and be a mom on your own with two girls.
It was huge, and it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And it was a very, very difficult patch, but if I can give anybody any advice about anything, it's surround yourself with people who you can trust and value in your life, because I could not have got through that without my family and my friends. And I have lifelong friends. I really have. I've invested in friendships over the years, and I accumulate new ones, and I keep adding to them. But there have been friends that have been there, and they have been the rock in my world. Boy, have they sat through many hours of tears and many glasses of wine and nights of whatever. But we've also laughed, and we've had fun, and it's not just a miserable journey. But there were tough days. There were days where I didn't think the sun would ever come out again.
And having that support system is crucial, because you need a backup
Absolutely.
when you're feeling like that. It's really imperative. And we often as women are so busy that almost becomes secondary. Having a social life, going out, we're too tired, there's so many demands on us, it's easy to let that slip. But what I'm hearing is how crucial that is for people to make sure that they have, even if it's just a couple of people, as a backup, as a support system, someone to turn to. And
I think, we live in a world where families are very fractured, whether it's by time and space, some are living all over the world, or whether it's by divorces and deaths and whatever circumstances people come into. So I think you can create family. Family isn't necessarily blood.
Definitely.
Family is when you're connected at the heart. And that's what I've got. I've got people that are connected to my heart and will be forever. And, and those are many of the people who have just been invaluable in that journey.
So when we go through struggles in life, often we look back. At the time, it's heart-wrenching, but we look back and we say, I'm happy that happened to me because it made me who I am today. It allowed me the space to grow and become who I am. Would you say that was the case for you? Can you, at this point, look back and go, I'm happy for it, or is there still loads of pain associated with it?
No, I'm very happy with it. Whenever I look back, I go, it was the best decision I ever made. In fact, I think the only regret I have is that I didn't do it sooner. I wish I'd done it 5 years earlier, because it would have put a lot less pain, people through a lot less pain, and also it would have been better for me. But your journey is your journey, and that's it. So, and I think the thing I'm most proud of, and I think I've set an example for my girls. I've just taught them that if something isn't right for you, whatever it is, you can get out of it and you can be strong and independent on your own. And that's a true lesson. You don't have to be in any situation, because no matter what you do, you'll find the right path. And you need to be brave and strong sometimes to do that.
I think that's the essence of a true mother, is to be able to give our children those lessons, to be brave and bold and know that they must take risks and follow their path. And if it's not right, to change it, because so many people stick in a place that's not right out of fear of change. And actually, the minute you do make the change, your whole world starts shifting. So was there ever a time that you got to a crossroads and looking back, you wish you had done something differently from a career perspective, from, your marriage, any time in your life where you made a decision, you were at a crossroads, and if you had done something different, maybe your life would have turned out completely differently?
I think, I did a BCom accounting science, and I reached the end of that. So I did it through UNISA while I worked, and I'd always planned to kind of go along the path of doing the full CA thing. And I reached the end of that, and I was involved and wanted to get married. And my husband was working in his business at the time, sort of almost 24/7. So we kind of made a decision that it would be crazy for both of us to be putting in those kind of hours, and that we would start a family and move, and I would be the support and he would be the powerhouse. And I think if I look back now, that's probably my biggest regret, is that I didn't finish and I didn't create for my own self that ability to have everything. Because when we split up years later, I had to start from scratch at the age of whatever it was, 36. And that was tough. It was really quite tough. So, but again, a journey is a journey. I look where I am now and I go, well, it's all okay. It's all just fine. It worked out the way it was supposed to work out.
I guess that's always the case, is when we're going through it, it doesn't feel like it. So when things aren't feeling okay, can you give us some of your tips and tricks? What do you do to get to feel better, to de-stress, to wind down, to shift your space? What do you do? What have you learned that works for you?
Well, as I've said, I surround myself by the good people. So, on the worst days, one of them will get a phone call and say, I'm coming round, or come to me, or let's chat on the phone. And it's helpful to have a lot, because you can rotate. Yes. And out comes the bottle of wine, and we have a nice chat and a laugh. But I think it's also about being okay with yourself. I really do. And one of my biggest fears was loneliness. And I've just learned to be alone. So even sometimes on a really end of a really tough week on a Friday night, I'll go home and, thinking, oh, lovely, we'll have a movie night with the girls. And I get home and they're on their way out the front door because they're big and they've got their own lives. And I look around and I've got the cats and the dogs, and I go, okay. And I hop onto the couch with a bowl of popcorn and a glass of wine and put on a movie. And I'm really okay on my own, and it's fine. So I think that it's important to get comfortable with yourself, to be in your own space.
And we're surrounded by so much noise every single day, from emails to Facebook to WhatsApp to work to just the busyness of life, that so many people never have that quiet time. And I think in those quiet moments, that's when you're able to recharge yourself the most.
So for a while, the girls spent 1 week with me and 1 week with their dad. And I used to love my week on my own. I love my girls. They're the most amazing thing I've ever done in my life. But gee whiz, I got used to that space, and it was so much me time, and I loved it. And then they kind of got to a space where they found it too difficult, and so now they're pretty much permanently with me. And there are days where I do wish they would go away for a while.
Just come back tomorrow.
It would be nice. So yes, and and the other thing I've done a lot of is I've taken a journey about myself. I've really, and this has come to a head for me very recently, but I've really had to learn to love myself and to respect myself and to value myself and to go, you are perfect just as you are, because I'm very hard on myself. And
as are so many women, how do you find that acceptance? Where do you get it when you look at yourself in the mirror and you think, as women do, I wish I could have Botox in these 5 lines, and I wish I could be 10 kilos thinner, and I wish I could do gym more, and we're very hard on ourselves.
We're incredibly hard.
How do you find that acceptance?
One of my favorite cartoons is that where you see the lady with a rather lovely figure looking in a mirror and sees herself as 3 times the size, and then you get the guy with his beer book and his thing, and he just sees the bodybuilding, and I mean that just defines us. Men just don't have that same ability to look at themselves so critically. We take out we look at a photograph, and then the first thing we zone in on are all the things we don't like. And I go, how could you not tell me that my stomach was hanging out? And and people are like, but you look beautiful. And I'm going, no, I do not. But,
yes.
We are so hard on ourselves. So it's a process, Shireen. You have to sit in front of that mirror and look at yourself and go, wow, I love you. You're awesome. And initially you
going,
feel
what a
like
load of rubbish.
Shannon's going, I need to go to school, Mom. And can you stop talking to yourself in the mirror, please? And if my friends come, you don't do that. And I'm going, but you should be doing it too. And she's going, listen, I'm not nuts. Only you nuts in this household. But, it really is. It's something you just have to. And it's amazing. After a while, you start to feel better about it, and you start looking at yourself and go, okay, this is okay. But it is a process, and then you forget to do it for 3 days, and the next time you look in your mirror, you go, oh, about those 10 kilos. So
it's about faking it initially, and then eventually you believe it.
I'm a big fan of fake it until you make it, because I am, and people truly do not believe this about me, I'm incredibly shy. And the most difficult thing for me to do is to go into a room of people I don't know. And you have no idea the stress that's going on, but I've learned to fake it until I find someone to talk to, and then it kind of is, and then I'm okay.
And then you're okay.
But
and you do a lot of going into rooms with strange people. And in fact, I'd love you to share the story. Last year you did something absolutely insane. It completely captivated me. I think I was with you on the journey in spirit and everything else except physically. Tell us about what you did.
So I joined the Sun International CEO Sleep Out last year. And it was just something that came up. One of my reps mentioned it to me initially, and then it was in the back of my mind, and then I heard a bit about it on the radio, and it just captivated me. I thought, now here's a challenge, a real challenge, and I truly believe, and their charity was Girls and Boys Town, and I really believe in children. I think children, it's so important to give children opportunity, because they are the future. I mean, if we don't help them, how are we going to have a next generation that's positive? So I got involved, and I phoned up because it was quite a lot.
Can I stop you for a moment? Tell us what the CEO Sleep Out was. For
Okay.
people who don't know what it was.
So the CEO Sleep Out was a challenge where we had to go and spend a whole night on the street. So we had to get there, I think, at around 5:30, 6 o'clock, and we were dismissed at 6 o'clock the next morning. And okay, in all fairness, we did it in a very protected environment, and there was quite a lot of controversy about that. Were we really being hobos on the streets or homeless people because we had certain amenities, and I'll tell you more about it just now. But basically the challenge was you were going to spend a night on the street, and all you were allowed to take with you was what you were wearing. So you weren't allowed to bring anything with you, and you were given a sleeping bag and a box.
And if I remember correctly, that particular day happened to be the most freezing day I think we had the entire year.
It was a very cold evening. Thank goodness it didn't rain, which we were all very grateful for, because they said rain does not equate to cancellation. So, so that was the challenge, and you had to raise money. So the entry fee was 100,000 Rand per entrant. And I had to do that. So I sort of negotiated with our financial director to pay some from Polyflor, and then we phoned a lot of our clients, and a lot of them sponsored me, and so I raised the money and I was able to go. And I will tell you honestly, and you know this because you were there, that the most scary thing for me was not sleeping on the street or being cold or anything. It was going there not knowing a single soul. I was terrified of not knowing a single person. And I was so fortunate to meet the most lovely person in the car park, and we spent most of the night together and meet some other people, and it was an incredible experience.
And growing for you, never mind the fact that you raised the money, but really growing.
You know, it was a fascinating evening. It was very cold, although I did wear a lot of clothing.
How many layers?
A lot. It was one time I didn't really worry about what I looked like. I think I couldn't put my arms down by my side.
And you didn't mind having a big behind at that
not
point?
Not at all.
Padding helps the pavement feel softer.
Well, I was going to say, the best advice I can give to anybody, if you're ever going to be homeless, when you take anything from your home when you're leaving, take your mattress, because there is nothing comfortable about a cardboard box. It was, in fact, I didn't sleep. It was the most uncomfortable night I've ever spent in that sense. But it was just so eye-opening, because, you just realize, we did it, so they closed off the lane and we were surrounded, and there was obviously security. You've got the top CEOs, and there were a lot of very important people there.
Yes.
And we were given food, so there was soup, and there were very nice amenities, which we were most grateful for. And there was some entertainment and things that happened through the evening, and then at about midnight they shut all that down, and it was sort of lights out kind of thing. But we had coffee and water through the night, and the bathrooms if we needed.
Which is actually more than any homeless person
Well,
has.
Exactly. And we could go to sleep, and there were, from the snores, many people who did manage to actually go to sleep. And we had little fires that we could sit around and stuff. But, the realization that if you're truly homeless, you go to sleep every night in a space without any safety. How do you know when you wake up or even that you're going to wake up? How do you know when you wake up somebody's not going to have taken everything you own, which is very little? Where do you get your next meal? Where do you go to the bathroom? Those
how do you clean yourself in any way?
And then if you're in that space, how do you ever lift yourself out of that to be able to get a job or to go anywhere? It was very, very humbling. Very humbling.
It's so scary, and we don't put ourselves in that position. And one of our mavericks in the book is a lady by the name of Pam Green, and she has an organization called Second Chances. And this is exactly what she does. She takes street people and tries to rehabilitate them, giving them jobs, not necessarily just feeding them, because that doesn't solve the problem, but really taking them and changing their lives, cleaning them up, helping them get a second chance at life.
Yeah, I think it's, as I say, it was incredibly humbling. But it was a fabulous experience.
Incredible experience. So would you say that that's one of the most fun things you've done in your career, or have you got something even more fun?
No, I think definitely it was so challenging, because it was really out of my comfort zone, and yet it was such an incredible experience. But, there's so many fun things. Everything we do has an element. I love setting out on a new challenge. I love creating whatever it is we're doing, and following it through and getting to the end and seeing the results. For me, that is just amazing.
And when you love work, it's not really work.
No. In some ways.
In some ways.
Some days I don't want to go to work.
Do without the stress.
But yes.
So what 5 things, or give us a few things, can others learn from the mistakes that you have made? What would you tell people not to do based on what you've done from either a career point of view or a life point of view?
I think don't focus on your mistakes. I think that mistakes, everybody makes mistakes, be they personal or whatever. My dad always says at work to people, and it's something I love to repeat to people about their mistakes at the office. The only people who don't make mistakes are the people who don't come to work.
I completely love that.
And I think it's lovely because that is the thing. We all make mistakes, so don't dwell on them. Get over them, move on. Forgive yourself, whatever it was, whether it was something absolutely terrible or something, just forgive yourself, but learn from them. The most important thing we can do is learn from them and take responsibility for them. Because we're in a very blame-orientated world. I walk somewhere and I slip and now I must look for somebody to blame. Or, people are very much, I think, taking responsibility for your actions is something the world has started to forget a lot about. And that's very important. So if you've made a mistake, own up to it. Take responsibility for it. Do what you need to do to fix it. And then move on. You can't dwell on it.
I think that's very powerful in the world we live in. As you say, we play the victim game, blame and shame, and we don't want to own up for what is really ours. But in owning up, we can also be kind to ourselves and forgive and learn. I keep saying failing forward.
Yeah. And victim mentality is so destructive. I lived a long time in that, and it has absolutely no benefit to anyone. You've got to be responsible for yourself. You've got to see yourself in a much more positive light. You've got to lift yourself above that and see everything that comes at you as a challenge.
And you can really only make a difference to the world when you're your best self.
Absolutely.
You're no good to anyone when you're your worst self.
I always say, if you can be the best you can be every day, even as a mother. Mothering has to be one of the hardest jobs in the world.
Without question.
And there are some days I'm probably a terrible mother. And I'm sure my girls would back me up on this. But, I always say, be the best mother you can be every day. Sometimes that's not such a good mom. But if it's the best you can be today, it's okay. Because tomorrow you will be better. And another day you will be awesome. And my girls will laugh.
Fabulous.
When I get home and they ask me and I give them something and I say, and what do you say? They say, you're the best mom in the world.
That's all you want. Baby. You've done well then. We learn so much from our children. Have your children taught you any valuable lessons in life?
They've taught me everything. They've taught me about unconditional love. They've taught me about respect. They've taught me that best laid plans can go awry. They've taught me so much. They are such amazing, beautiful young souls. They really are. And they are just on the verge of adulthood now. And I'm just looking at them and I know that they're just ready to fly and they're amazing. They've adapted around also a difficult journey. It hasn't been an easy journey for them. They've had a lot of complexity in their story too. And they're just amazing. They managed to work around it and they've both managed to do well at school and to become really whole, complete young ladies. And I'm so very, very proud of them.
And that's all you really want out of life. You want your children to be happy. My mom always says you're as happy as your most miserable child. So when your children are happy, you're happy. And that's really the crux of it. It's like wearing your heart on your sleeve, and your children are that heart. And when that heart's good, you're good.
Absolutely. They are. And yes, I think we take on far too much some days. If I get home and one of them's miserable, then I'm instantly, as you say,
miserable.
I need to fix this. I need to fix it. Yes. But I've also had to learn that I can't fix everything. I can't take their pain always. And as much as a mother as you would always prefer to do it yourself. There are times when you can't. I can't always fix it for them. Sometimes it's part of their journey. I can just be part of their safety net. So like I have my friends and family who are my safety net. I'm part of their safety net. And sometimes they actually don't want me either. They want someone else to be their confidant, and I've had to learn to accept that too.
That's hard.
It is hard. It's very hard at times.
I have 3 boys, and you generally, as a mother, never the confident when you've got boys. So it's not easy.
Yeah, it's not always easy, but it's special and it's precious. And I'm at a point now where I really realize that, you know, we're in the last stretch, and it's really important to spend that time with them and to have the family time. And I pull rank every now and then, and I go, right, we're going away together. It's not negotiable. Yes, but nothing. You know, and we're all going to the bush, or we're all going to see my sister in Cape Town, or we're all going to do whatever it is, and we're going to have some family time together. And it's really important, because I believe that one day when they look back, those are the memories they're going to. It's the time we've spent together with the family and the friends and recently my oldest daughter's boyfriend made the South African triathlon team. And we threw a little surprise party for him. They're going to Mexico, so we did a Mexican fiesta. And really the people that came to that were my family, in inverted commas. So it was all my friends and the people, because we're so invested in his success.
Yes.
And we just had the most amazing evening with all these people. And I just look at that and I think that's what it's all about. It's sitting there and everybody was laughing, and there's a range of age groups, and it's just, you know, it's just lovely. It's precious.
Being present.
Absolutely. Being right there in the moment, and just knowing that we're all there for one another, for the good stuff and the bad stuff.
I think that's powerful. So many people in businesses, so many families today are never present, are never in the moment, are never celebrating fully life. And that's a very powerful message and lesson to others, is that's what feeds you. That's what gives you the energy to keep going. So Tandy, where to next? Have you got some big goal, big dream? Or is it just to keep growing yourself, being better? Where to next for Tandy?
Yeah, I think, I've only just taken the reins as CEO. So I think that's my next big challenge, is to really get into that position and take Polyflor to the next level. Excellence can only continue if you keep to grow. You can't grow unless you can't maintain excellence unless you keep growing a business. Otherwise it becomes stale. So that's always a challenge. How do we change things up? How do we keep it going? You know, what do we do differently this month or next year, or where's our strategy going? And so that's a big challenge. And I have, all sorts of plans along that. So from a work perspective, I think that's definitely where I'm planning to go at this stage. As I said, the girls are on the verge of adulthood, so it's to see them through to that is very important, and to spend that time and to cement those relationships with them so that they last forever, which I'm sure they will anyway. But that's very important to me now, is to try and take a little bit more time out and that for them, and a bit more me time for me, because I think I've been doing a lot of mommy and work duty for the last 10 years, and maybe it's now some Tandy time. Travel is always big on my list. There's such a world out there to explore, but that will come as and when. And then I think for me, something I would really love to find in my world right now is a partner to share it with. That's been something that hasn't happened, probably for all the right reasons, in the sense that I've had to focus on the girls and the business, and my mom who had her stroke 3 years ago. And so I've been a very busy lady with a lot, and there have been some lovely people I have met along the way, but there hasn't been anybody who has actually loved me. And I think that for me has been huge, and perhaps that's part of my lesson in why I've had to suddenly sort of really take cognizance of, am I loving myself? Because how do I expect someone to love me if I don't love myself? So that's been a big part of the journey in the last little while. And yeah, I think I'm ever hopeful that somebody will come along to share this adventure, because it really is an adventure.
What an exciting future to look forward to.
And I've learned that I've now laid down my plan. Boy, does the universe sometimes decide that that's not the way it's going to be.
Exactly. We plan and God laughs.
Absolutely. and I think, I don't know what the next great adventure will be. I simply trust my angels. They will take me wherever I'm meant to go. So whatever's meant to happen will fall across my path at some point, and so I will continue to make my plans, and the universe will continue to tell me what it really wants me to do.
And by surrendering and allowing, that really is when we get into flow.
And I think one of the other things that I'd really like to add into my life now that I'm probably getting to the point of a little bit more time, because the girls are so much more independent now, is some charity work and some giving back to community. And I've started to get involved in some stuff, and I'm really looking forward to doing a bit more of that, because I just think that there's so much need out there.
It really is, and when we give, it fills us more.
It does. And it's time now. I've reached a point where I've got more time to give to things like that. So I recently helped a little bit with revamping a foster home and doing some painting, and it was just such a fulfilling, wonderful day. So I'm looking forward to getting more involved in that sort of thing as well.
Tandy, to end, what do you hold in your heart? What is the final message here that you'd like to share with the world, to take away from your beautiful story? And you've experienced so much, learned so much, and I think you have so much value to offer. Share with us what's in your heart, what's inside.
My heart is filled with love. Honestly, that's what I've got in my heart. I love everything. I love my daughters most in the world. I love my business. I love South Africa. We have an amazing country. Yes, we have huge problems, but have you ever looked around? Who gets to go to the bush and the sea and the mountains in one place, and the sun shines all the time? It's fantastic. And the people are interesting and vibrant and different. And I love food, and I love wine, and I love friends. And, there's just so much. I love being alive and living my life and trying to find the joy and the fun and the blessings in it every day. And I think that what I'm really striving for is to live an attitude of gratitude, to just be grateful for everything, whether it's the simple things like the shower was hot this morning and somebody made me a cup of coffee, or whether it's the awesome and amazing things like the best order we get at the office, or whatever comes in your world every day, and to look in that mirror and say, hi, you're wonderful and you're great, and and to try and pass that on to my girls so that they can also become those, or be those strong women, because they also have to face all these challenges as they become mothers and wives and bosses and sisters and lovers and whatever, And they need to be able to have a role model that gives them all of those things. And so, yes, I think it's about being myself, being true to myself, but believing in myself and trying to impart that on everybody I touch. So my staff, who are my Polyflor family, or my daughters, or my friends, or anybody else who needs to be uplifted, and give lots of hugs and try and uplift everybody.
And I really think that exudes from you. You are one of the most passionate, inspiring, beautiful souls that exudes positivity and really shows in life that anyone can be powerful, anyone can be beautiful, anyone can overcome challenges, and we all have the power to be great. Tandy, thank you so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to interview you, to have you as a maverick, and to have you share your story with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Shireen. It's been an absolute honor to be here.
And there you have it. What an excellent interview. Thank you to our guest interviewer, Shireen Richter. She's interviewing people for her book, Expert Mavericks, which is going to be released later this year. We're looking forward to more interviews from Shireen, but until then, like and share, and we'll see you next time on the show.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.